All right, so our aim today is that we're going to be able to describe absolute value and find the absolute value of a number. We're also going to find some absolute value expressions, find the value of them. So that's our main aim for today. To get started with our work for today, I've got 3 things that I've asked you to do. The first one is to use this number line to draw yourself 3 blocks east of the store. So you're kind of pretending like this number line is a street, and you are going to draw yourself 3 blocks from the store. I'm not going to give you any other instructions other than that. The second one says use the number line to draw yourself 3 blocks west of the store. And the last one says use the number line to draw yourself 3 blocks from the store. I'm not going to give you other instructions other than that. I will give you a reminder that if you're talking about directions, if you're going clockwise, it's never eat soggy waffles. Never eat soggy waffles. Or never enrage silent whales. Or whatever it is that you remember it. Those are the cardinal directions. Go ahead and try this, these 3 instructions below right now. All right, I'm going to summarize for you really quickly what I saw on each of these. So on this one, I saw a lot of people go 1, 2, 3. They draw a smiley face or a stick figure. Here, check out my stick figure. There's no space for him to eyes and a smile. Oh, got a smiley face in there. All right, and I even saw some people label this as 3, which I thought was really interesting because you were thinking about where this goes. Okay, that was really interesting. That's really great. That's exactly what I expected to see. On this one, I saw a lot of people do this. They draw their little stick figure, their smiley face, whatever it was. And they even, a couple of people added a -3. The one thing I really liked about labeling this -3 is because I think between these 2 questions, what's the difference in the wording? What's the difference in the wording of what you were asked to do? Genesis?
They gave you directions of which, like to go west or to go east.
I really like how she said that. They gave us specific directions. What's the difference in the numbers?
One of them are positive, the other one is negative.
So when we're thinking about math, let's combine those 2 ideas. Genesis says the difference is a direction, and for us, in the numbers, the difference is a negative or a positive. In math, we use negatives and positives to indicate direction, especially when you get ready to start using math when you get to physics classes, or actually sometimes in your science class next year, in your physical science class, you're going to be using negatives to indicate direction. And that's what we do in math. Negatives indicate direction. So a negative says backwards, a positive says forwards. Okay? Looking at the last one. I saw lots of different things here. I saw some of this. I saw some of this. I even saw some of this. Which one's right? Kevin, what do you think?
I think the ones on the right side and left side, I think both of them are right.
Okay, you think so those 2 are right? Okay. Mr. Posey, what do you think?
I think the one on the right side is right because on the right it says 3 blocks instead of 3 blocks to the west or negative, or instead of saying 3 blocks north.
Okay. Mr. Swenson, what do you think?
I think that it's all right because it just says that it's 3 blocks from the store, so it's any directions.
Okay. So what I hear Joseph saying, and this is probably the most accurate answer, is that he says that they're all right. The directions don't give a direction. It's kind of like if Troy came over and asked me, hey, Mr. Boots, how do I get to the movie theater? And I say it's 3 miles. And he looks back at me and says, 3 miles which direction? Do I need to go up Geary Street? Do I need to go down Geary Street? Scott Street? How am I going to get there? So
Go to Venice Street.
this is basically an idea where direction doesn't matter. This question, direction doesn't matter. And it's the same thing with absolute value. Okay? Absolute value is simply talking about how far away something is. Doesn't matter the direction. It doesn't care. When we specifically talk about absolute value, this is the definition that we will use. It's the distance away from 0. It doesn't matter which direction. And since we're not talking about which direction, we're not going to assign a negative or a positive to it necessarily. That's what absolute value is all about. They're like bad directions. It's like, what's the absolute value of blah, 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 blah? It's like bad directions. It's like, Troy, 3 miles. Just go. Good luck. Okay? Absolute value is the same way. So we're talking about here, looking at -3. These 2 vertical bars right here, those are the absolute value symbols. That's how we identify absolute value. So this question right here is asking us, what is the absolute value of -3? How far is -3 from 0? What is the distance between -3 and 0? Now remembering, absolute value is basically like bad directions. We're not going to tell you a direction. Math, negatives mean a direction, and we don't want that. So the answer is 3. We think about it as 1, 2, 3. It's 3 away from 0. I don't really care which direction. Over here, we've got the absolute value of 4. How far is 4 from 0? Michael?
4.
4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Direction doesn't matter. Simple, right? Kip yes or kip no? Simple. Probably one of the simplest things that we'll learn all year. There are some small details, however, that we do need to make sure that we pick up. First of all, those absolute value symbols look a lot like what? When you look at those absolute value symbols, what do they look a lot like? They look a lot like bars. What other math symbol do they look a lot like? Bijan, what do you think? Parentheses. And one really important detail is that they are a lot like parentheses. They are a lot like parentheses. We were talking about order of operations earlier today, how this G meant grouping symbols. And I previewed this to you. Absolute value symbols are grouping symbols. When we're talking about order of operations, we will do absolute value symbols first. Okay? We're also going to talk about a little bit later on how they're just slightly different, though. One thing that's going to be different about them, but we'll get to that. So let's look at these problems really quickly of points on a number line. So this first point on a number line. Somebody tell me, what is the absolute value of this first point on the number line? Yes, ma'am. 7. And the work that I'm sure she showed goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It is 7 away from 0. Genesis is saying no.
Because I say that because it's on the left side of the 0, so it needs to be negative.
Okay, so Genesis is recognizing that the position or the location of this is -7. And this is the common misconception. We want to make sure that we know that we're talking about absolute value. Remember, absolute value, it's like those bad directions. I'm not going to tell you which direction it is. -7, that tells me to go backwards. Absolute value just says it's 7 away from 0. That's all I'm going to tell you. Okay? So we're looking here. The answer is 7. Okay? A negative sign gives us direction, and that's not what absolute value does. All right, looking at the next one. Troy.
7.
Troy's work shows 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's 7 away from 0. That's all I'm going to tell you. Next one, Damien. His work shows 1, 2. It's 2 away from 0. That's all I'm going to tell you. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 4 away from 0. That's all I'm going to tell you. That's what absolute value is. It's like bad direction giver. All right? All right, looking over here, we've got a little bit more teacher time because I do want to work on some more difficult things today. It would have been too easy if all we talked about was how to find the absolute value on a number line. So we're going to get to some more difficult things today. Now, this first one should be really easy. What is this question asking me in words? What is that question asking me in words? How can we convert that math into what it's really asking us? Ricardo.
Is it exact or
Michael. Okay, so I feel that we're having difficulties following my instruction here. So let's just get a double check. Mathematically, how would you read that? 3 times 5, okay? Mathematically, in words, what is this asking us? Kevin?
Saying that 42 is 0. 42 is how many space? The point is 42 space away from 0.
So he's saying this question is asking me how far away is this number from 0? And he is telling me the answer is 42. Right on. Next one, same thing. How far is 23 away from 0? What is the absolute value of 23? Everybody?
23.
Next one, what is the absolute value of negative 21?
21.
What is the absolute value of 242?
242.
We get it. Too easy, Mr. Boots. All right, let's make things a little bit more complicated. Now we've got something inside those symbols. So before we can figure out what the final value is, what the absolute value is, we have to find out what the value is inside. Now, looking at this, there is one thing there that you know I hate.
Subtraction.
Subtraction. What are we going to do? Genesis.
Crunch up.
Yep. Change switch. So I've got this here. Changed and switched. So now I'm going to do 2 plus negative 18. I've got opposite sign subtract. I'm going to take the sign of the larger number. Mia, what am I going to get? Negative 6. Now, this is where things get a little bit different than parentheses. When we have parentheses, we just do the work in the middle, parentheses disappear, right? Okay, that's not the case for absolute value. Absolute value tells you have to do something. So we find out what's in the middle. We keep those absolute value symbols there. We now realize this is asking us, what is the absolute value of negative 6? Everybody?
6.
That's it. That's our answer. Okay, so recognize it's a little bit different than parentheses because we have to actually do something with it once we find the value inside. All right, absolute value of 4 plus negative 12. What's the first thing that we need to do? Not an answer. First step. We do steps around here. Joseph.
We subtract 4 minus 12.
Okay, so we do our opposite sign subtract. So that gives me 8. I also need to take the sign of the larger number, so this is negative 8. Absolute value of negative 8.
8.
Absolute value of negative 8. Everybody is?
8.
Right on. You guys are awesome. All right. This next one highlights the next difference about parentheses and absolute value symbols. You cannot distribute across absolute value symbols. It will sometimes give you the right answer if you distribute, Other times it won't. So our rule is you cannot distribute across absolute value symbols. So we have to follow order of operations here. We have to do what's inside these grouping symbols first. This 2 out here, that's a multiplication. So before we do that, we have to deal with what's inside the grouping symbol. -4 plus -18. ECs, -4 plus -18. I believe in you. You can do it. Oh, ask a question. Even better.
So pretty much when it's negative, it turns out to positive.
Yes. That is an accurate summary. All right, -4 plus -18.
Negative 22.
This is -22. Keeping in mind, we can't just get rid of those symbols. They've got to stay for one more step. Because now we've got 2 times the absolute value of -21. Absolute value of -21, everybody is? Absolute value of -22 is 22. So now we have 2 times 22, and that is equal to 44. Okay? Now this last one, it looks like it's supposed to be super difficult. It's not. We've got 2 sets of grouping symbols. First thing we're going to do, we're going to find the value inside those grouping symbols. 4 plus -12.
8.
Positive or negative? -8. So this is going to be 3 times the absolute value of -8 minus -12 minus -4. That hurts my brain. That hurts my brain because I hate subtraction. So what are we going to do, Genesis? Peaceful plus sign. Switch that. So we have a negative plus a positive. That's opposite sign subtract. We're going to get what inside this set of absolute value symbols? ECs. -8. All right, so now we've got some work to do with these absolute value symbols. Absolute value of -8 is, so 3 times 8 minus absolute value of -8. So now we've taken care of all of our grouping symbols. I see no exponents. I'm going to move on to multiplications. 24 minus 8. I won't make you switch that one. 24 minus 8 is? 24 minus 8 is? Okay. Questions? Isaiah?
So I got a question like, what?
All right.